Zooming and enhancing is something that you see a lot in cop TV shows and various different movies. It looks like they have severely advanced computers and programs at their fingertips. They can take a horribly pixelized image and make it crisp and clean and clear, and to the point where you can identify anything. In some cases, even a fingerprint left on a car. Now, of course, as many people will point out, this is complete and utter BS. Enhancement technology isn't that good. When you have an entire area that could be a person's face as one block, as one single pixel, you're not going to get a lot of definition. No matter how advanced your computer system is, you're not going to get a crystal clear image. It just doesn't work. So how do they do it? How do they take a pixelized image and make it crystal clear in these TV shows and movies? Well, that's what we're going to look at today. And the first thing you need to do is have a really good crystal clear picture to begin with. So we're going to be using our Geek Trivia from the Monkey Island series and showing how to do a zoom in and enhance. I'm Ollamh, and welcome to Tutorial Tuesday. Alright, so now we have our Adobe Premiere pulled up, and I've already got my background PNG put in place. Now I use a PNG because the screen is actually transparent. So we can take our video that we're going to use, and this is just our Geek Trivia for Monkey Island, and drop it underneath. So now that video is going to show up, and the only part you're going to see is through the screen. First thing we need to do is we need to take this, and I'm just going to use the motion aspect and change it around and position it so that it looks like they're actually watching this video. Now, the monitor PNG that I have was not actually set up for a 16:9. So it doesn't quite fit. But that's not a big deal. Now we need to find out where they're going to say hold. We're just going to do it at 58 seconds because that gives us a good... we can see the gun that's in my belt. Now we're going to say they want to hold there. So we actually want to take this, cut this, zoom in, and basically what we're going to do is we're going to say add a frame hold. Well, we want to go back one. Because what it does is it takes that frame that we're on and it creates a picture. It creates a hold. So that is not going to change for as long as that lasts. Now we can turn around and say, okay, tack on the rest of the actual video at the end of it, and it'll continue. But we don't need that. So at 58 seconds, they say hold. We're going to go up to 1 minute and say, okay, this is where they say zoom in on the firearm. Zoom in on the gun that's in his belt. So we want to come over and we want to touch on the stopwatches here to create keyframes. Now we're going to say it's going to take 30 frames to zoom in. So 1 minute, 0 seconds, 30 frames. Basically for my stuff, that's going to be half a second because I do 60 frames per second. Create 2 new keyframes, and we just want to... Well, number one, we want to make sure that this is actually on the proper
that were actually selected on the proper the proper item here. So okay, so now we want to say zoom in. And instead of focusing on the crotch, we want to focus on the gun. Now that looks pretty good. You can actually see quite a bit of detail. You can't see perfect detail because that wasn't what the picture was going for. And if you are doing this, you want as clear of a picture as your final zoom and enhance is going to be. So this is still really good looking. This looks good. It's not pixelated, it's not fuzzy, it's not anything. So we want to change that because otherwise the enhance does nothing. So we want to go into effects and down to video effects, and we want to go to stylize, and we want to do a mosaic. Now with a mosaic, the number of blocks, the number of horizontal blocks and vertical blocks, the fewer blocks, the more pixelized your image is going to be. So let's say 75 and 75. That's very pixelized. That is actually very, very pixelized. Now you may be wondering, well, what is no pixelization whatsoever? And that's kind of tricky to do. So we're gonna cheat a little bit. We're gonna say take you, and we're gonna create a mask around that monitor. So now we have a mask, and at the starting point, when it starts, we want to, again, click the stopwatch on mask opacity to create a keyframe. And we want to go forward to the final zoom and say keyframe. Now, the first keyframe, we want the mask opacity on the mosaic to be 0. So no pixelization. And then, if we let's zoom in the timeline here so that it's a bit slower. As we zoom in, it gets more pixelized. And it gets pixelized with the increase of the zoom. Now, maybe we don't want it 100%. Maybe we want it 75%. So there, you can still make out some of the details, but you don't have as fine of details. There is some blurring and some slight pixelization there. Alternatively, you can say 100% pixelization, but increase your number of blocks to 125. So now you still have full pixelization, but the pixels aren't as defined. Okay, for some reason, that was off a little bit. So there we go. Now that'll pixelize right up to where our zoom comes in. Now let's say they take 2 seconds to talk about it. Say, well, what is that? So 1 minute, 2 seconds, and 30 frames. Now, here they say, well, we want to enhance that. We want you to enhance that particular image. So we say, add another keyframe for the start of the extreme pixelization, for the start of our enhancement. Now, we're going to say it's going to take 15 frames to actually finish out the enhancement. So 1 minute, 2 seconds, 45 frames. Add another keyframe and bring your opacity on your pixelization or your mosaic down to 0. So let's see what we have overall. Here we have our zoom in, and it zooms in, but it pixelizes, but the pixelization gets crazy. Now they say, okay, well, can you enhance that? Well, yes, we can. Here we're taking our pixelization down to 0 and we're enhancing it down to so that it's a fine image. And there's the gun. There's what they're looking for, the zoom in and enhance. Again, it is not something that is... It is easy to do, but it is not something that works the way TV and movies make it look. It is something that is very much... You have to add artificial pixelation and artificial blur in order to be able to take it from highly pixelized down to a fine image. It's not something that your local police or anybody is going to be able to do. So we are going to take this out to 1 minute, 30 seconds. We are going to cut off the end here, and we are going to go ahead and render this out. And the last little bit of the video here is going to be just what that enhancement is. And we're actually going to take it to, you know what? We're going to start it at 50 seconds. That way it's not like this big, huge, giant thing. So we're going to bring it down to here, and that's 40 seconds. So let's go ahead and see how it turns out.
We start the series with the protagonist, Guybrush Threepwood, walking into town on Melee Island with his goal
Hopefully this helped you. If it did, make sure to click the like. If you have any questions or comments on this video, by all means, please leave a comment down below. Hopefully this helps you out and helps you with how to do some of the techniques that you see in TV and movies all the time. As always, thank you guys very much for watching, and stay tuned for more from Ollamh Productions. Cheerio! So that it is an actual shadow. Now we're going to go to 3D Distort, and we're going to say, we're going to lay him down. Yeah. Oh, I bet you are, sweet cakes.